Now, the release of Wonka, a new film adaptation of Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, has reopened a debate around racism in old film and literature and whether it should be edited out. It's after an article criticised the film, saying it contained implicit racism due to a white saviour trope in the relationship between Willy Wonka and the character Noodle, played by black actor Carla Lane.
What are we gonna do, Willy?
Huh? Huh.
A double huh.
Do you have a pencil and paper?
Uh-huh.
I got an idea. I know things haven't been easy for you. They're gonna get better.
You promise?
I pinky promise. That's the most solemn vow there is.
Where do we start?
So should media be updated to suit modern audiences? Well, we're joined now by Andrew Allison of the Freedom Association, who is against such changes, and broadcaster and diversity advocate Ateh Jewel, who thinks it's only natural to update films and literature. Andrew, what are your objections to changing up the storyline of these classic tales?
I think some of the comments that you received from viewers were very good, because it is a window into history. It's how societal norms were, say, 50 years ago, or indeed how they were 100, 150 or 200 years ago. It's what the author has written, and just let it stand. No one is forcing anyone to read these books or to watch old films. It's completely their choice. And those of us who are quite happy with reading those old books and watching those old films should just be allowed to do so.
But Andrew, Roald Dahl, sorry, Ateh, you go ahead.
Oh, I didn't say anything, but I was just going to say that I'm a huge fan of Agatha Christie, and we all, one of my favourite works is And Then There Was None, which was originally called 10 Little N-Words. And then, I think we're all on the same page that that's not acceptable. So works of art and fiction and movies have been updated throughout history to adapt to modern audiences because it's just not acceptable.
And let's go back to you, Andrew. I'm with you, actually. I think these show history through the prism of a book or a film or a work of art, for example. And your point is valid, which is if you don't like it, don't read it. But I do think it comes with the caveat that it was written at a certain time and there were different societal norms at that time.
Yeah, no, very, very much so. I mean, the N word has just been mentioned, and absolutely that should not be used anymore. But if you look back at, say, the musical Showboat, famous song "Old Man River" began using the N word, and the reason for that was because at the time it was written, that was perfectly normal, and it was certainly perfectly normal in late 19th century southern United States. But I do agree that that word should be changed, and indeed it has been changed in modern adaptations, because that is spectacularly offensive. But my other problem, though, David, is that words that we use on a regular basis and phrases we use on a regular basis just 10 or 15 years ago have now changed. And indeed, in 10 or 15 years' time, words that we're using now that seem perfectly acceptable will probably have changed. And we just cannot keep on rewriting work just to adapt to the temporary societal norms.
But ultimately, we are remaking different versions of the same story. Ateh, it's right to say, isn't it, that even Roald Dahl himself edited some of his own work to address racist tropes and racist language.
Fine, Nicola.
Exactly.
That's absolutely
and
fine,
also,
Nicola.
Can I just speak, Andrew? You've had your turn, and it's time for me to speak now, Andrew. So in terms of, I love history. I studied history at university. And what I think is more concerning is all the stories that we don't hear. Hands up who's ever heard of Solitude, who was an 18th century enslaved woman while pregnant, ran an uprising. There's so many stories that we have not heard, which have been whitewashed throughout history, that this unconscious bias, which is like a bad photocopy, which goes on and on and on with the sort of saviour tropes and also quite misogynistic. How many times have you heard women say, "What will we do?" I've never heard a woman say that. I've always heard women like have action and get stuff done. It's just not good enough anymore. We are in 2023, I'm a Black woman, I have mixed heritage children. This unconscious bias has affected my life, work opportunities, and it's time to update the narrative. History is full of Black and African American geniuses who have never been spoken about. Hands up who knows about Garrett Morgan, the inventor of the gas mask and traffic lights, or Sadie Alexander, who was the first African-American woman in 1921 to get an economics degree, a PhD. These stories haven't been told, so it's completely unbalanced when we have scenes like this or characters which just have a really it's just a bad caricature, which is just needs to stop now.
But Ateh, isn't this the problem here, that what we do need to do is to build on all of this work, to celebrate Black culture, for example, to tell those stories? That's the bit that's missing.
That is part of the story, but I think I have all my life been affected by unconscious bias, by the telling of these stories. Like, you know, I love VE Day, but we never see images of soldiers who fought from India, from around the empire, from Africa, in trenches in the First or Second World War. We've never been exposed to this. We've never been taught this in history. The only things we see are these same narratives which suit people very well to make themselves feel good about themselves, but I don't think it's necessary.
And Andrew, we live in an age, as I said earlier, where instead of writing new works, I think Ateh's just come up with several new film scripts, I think, that should get commissioned.
Yes!
If we are going to be remaking classics, we're ultimately making them for the time that we're in now. Isn't that right?
Yes, but let's write some new stuff, or let's look back at some of the old stuff that Ateh has just mentioned. I just don't feel that it's necessary just to keep on rewriting old stuff all the time. I'm sure authors can be much more imaginative than that.
I think you're absolutely right here. I think it's about preserving the best of what we already have and interpreting that through the prism of where we were and the cultural values at that time. Thank you very much to both of you, though. Thank you to Ateh, and also thank you to Andrew. Lots more still to come.